All right, now I will formally call this meeting to order. Will our city clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Gates. Councilman Nowakowski. Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Valenzuela. Here. Councilman Waring. Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gallego. Here. Mayor Stanton.
Here. We're fortunate to have Ms. Marquez here, our interpreter. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
Mi nombre es Leticia Márquez. Si alguien necesita asistencia o traducción al español, por favor, véame. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Now will be the time for citizen comments to this city council. We'll do this for up to 15 minutes. If you would like to give testimony to city council on subject matters not on our agenda, now is the time to fill out a card and present it to our city clerk. And the city council will not be able to respond because these are non-agendized items. Mr. Leonard Clark, did you have up to 3 minutes of comments you'd like to make to the city council?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Leonard Clark. I'm a resident of Phoenix, born right down the street of Good Samaritan Hospital. I just wanted to start off by saying that democracy is not and should not be a sham, a democratic republic. And I think that the city of Phoenix is helping to at least illustrate that by the very fact that I'm able to speak here today. And of course, thanks to veterans that never came back or that are suffering from PTSD and all of these other things. But I really do not take for granted the right to be able to speak to you. But I'm concerned about the open meeting law as it pertains to other government agencies and things that are occurring lately here in Arizona and possibly in the city of Phoenix. Last year, Board of Supervisors, they went into executive session, discussed it length, a measure, came out, did not say anything about what they had talked about and voted on it, and then asked by the press what they voted on. They laughed and said they didn't have to tell them it was in special session. Then, as you know, at the House of Representatives, the press was banned to a large extent for a bogus reason. And also here, I feel that sometimes, like for myself, I gave a reporter a video, and that reporter, I believe, was one of the people on this council, was very unfair to him. And the press, whether we like it or not, even though it's not an official branch of government, is still very necessary. So I'm hoping that whatever you do, continue to at least keep it transparent so that citizens like myself can know what you're voting on. The other thing is, you do validate parking, but I've been stating to you for over a year now that citizens should not have to pay a special tax because that's what it is. I go to the city parking garage, even when you validate, and thank you to my city council district member, Thelda Williams. Very great district to live in, thanks to her, and the citizens that live there. But the problem is, even with that validation, I still come out paying $8 to $10 as a citizen who wants to speak. And that constitutes a special tax. And unless you're going to have the same exact tax on all of my fellow citizens of Phoenix, which I don't want you to do, why don't you make it so that when citizens sign in and they're here and they've taken the time and effort, that you're not going to penalize them because they're all worried about parking fees. They're already scared enough about politicians having retribution on them, doing all these different things. Why don't you let the citizens of Phoenix know that they can come here, if they sign in and they stay in the meeting, then they're not going to be charged for parking. Have a special waiver of that fee. And I'm not sure that you'll do it, but hope does spring eternal. Secondly, I just want to thank the mayor because, boy, we do have big disagreements. The mayor is a conservative, and it's bipartisan, but he's a corporate Democrat, conservative Democrat. But you know what? I'll always be indebted to the mayor of Phoenix because it took courage to stand up for refugees because, as you know, over 500 of them just died in the Mediterranean. But the mayor knows, as well as I, that in our city we have many different people. So I thank the mayor for that and his courage with his letter to the Department of Justice. I will always give credit when someone stands up and has courage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Sandy Hannon is next, followed by Gwendolyn Parker.
Hello, Mayor Stanton and Vice Mayor, and all of you good people that are working hard for our city. My name is Sandy Hannon, and I've been an advocate for the homeless for the last 20 years here. I volunteered at the Andre House for 5 years, and have helped feed many hungry people here. I know that St. Vincent de Paul feeds breakfast and lunch every day, and I have brought many people there in the last few years. 3 weeks ago, I brought a man off the street that I had met at lunchtime, and I was told that if he did not have an ID, he could not come in and eat. And then I was upset, and the girl said, "Well, I'm going to throw you off the campus too." I understand that they have to have data there and count the IDs for their information. But I have a solution, I think. I'm asking that if people come and they don't have ID or they have lost their ID, that they can come in and eat and be counted by the people actually counting the numbers of the people that came in. We never turned away any people that were hungry at Andre House. And I know that Jesus wants us to feed all his sheep. Our new computerized system there has left many without food. I'm also asking that there can be some advocates down around the area down there that will find the people that cannot take care of themselves at all and be sure that they can take showers, change clothes, and feel like human beings. I've taken many of them home with me, and I see the difference after they've had baths and showers. I would do this myself. I would be an advocate, but I'm going to move to Colorado for the summer, and I will work with the homeless there. Phoenix has done wonders for the homeless. You have opened up the campus. It's all so beautiful. But I just want to be sure that everyone can be fed. I pray that it will be fixed by human resources, and I thank you for your time. And Mayor Stanton, I am thanking you for always being out and taking care of this city. I see you on TV all the time. You're a working mayor, and I appreciate you. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Ms. Hannon. We appreciate your volunteerism, and good luck in Colorado. Next speaker will be Gwendolyn Parker, and then followed by James Deibler.
Good afternoon, Mayor Stanton, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Gwendolyn Parker, and I'm the Director for Exceptional Student Services in the Pendergast Elementary School District. Thank you so very much for hearing what I have to say this afternoon. Our school district is in the city of Phoenix, and we want to publicly invite you to one of our community breakfasts and to inform you publicly of the many programs that we are putting forth for our 10,000 students in our 12 schools. And this is just a small sample. We offer signature programs including dual language, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, which is STEM, architecture and design, energy and the environment, medical and health services. Additionally, our schools offer programs including SRPs, School of Energy, AHILA Youth Leadership College-Bound Program, Technology Integration, the Experience Corps Intergenerational Tutoring Program, and the Leader in Me. Each of our schools has a strong focus on teaching the whole child and engaging families and the community to ensure high student achievement and lifelong success. Next year, we'll be expanding our academies to include athletics, construction, authors, and water investigations academies. What we would like to make sure that we invite you to is our community breakfast, which we have every month, and we have many, many business partnerships. Our next breakfast will be held on April 28th at 7:30 in the morning at 3802 North 91st Avenue in our district office. And we invite you to attend and to come out and see all the many programs that we offer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Parker, for taking the time and giving us information about the school district. That's awesome. James Deibler is next.
Hello, I am James Dibler. I am going to school at Arizona State University downtown Phoenix campus and Glendale Community College. I live in Phoenix Council Member Donald Vancerelia, District 5. We need to extend Pell Grant's eligibility limit to 18 semesters for people with disabilities and low-income students who are trying to get a college education at Arizona State University and other colleges across the country. When students reach the 600% Pell Grant lifetime eligibility limit, they are forced to take out more federal student loans or discontinue their education. Extending the Pell Grant's lifetime eligibility limit for people with disability and other additional students will help students like me reach their education goals. We need to expand other than restrict the university grants available for low-income students and people with disabilities as an alternative for Pell Grants. One option will be to increase the credit limit from 120 to 180 credit limit or to eliminate the credit requirements altogether. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dibler. That's all the comments we have for citizen comments today. Next on the agenda will be the city clerk reading the 24-hour paragraph.
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6086 and 6146 through 6151, S42439 through S42481, and resolutions number 21379, 21424, and 21425.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is meeting minutes approvals. Councilman Waring, have you had a chance to review the formal meeting minutes for March 23rd, 2016? I was here. Not here right now. We'll get him. We'll hold that item, then we'll get it as soon as he is back. Next on the agenda is boards and commissions. We have a motion to approve city council boards and commission nominations.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Passes unanimously. Do we have citizens here to be sworn in? Do we have some? We do. Okay, good. All right, good. So I'll come to my right, your left, and I'll swear you in, and then if you could come on around the dais, and council members like to say thanks in advance for your service. Fill in the blank for your name, and then later on fill in the blank for your particular board or commission. All right, please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of Excellent. According to the best of my ability, so help me God. You're official. Thank you so much. Thanks for your service in advance. Thank you so much. All right, next on the agenda are liquor licenses, items 1 through 16. Do we want to do omnibus or go, I guess we do item number 1 first? Yeah, let's do item number 1 is staff recommends disapproval. It's in District 5, Councilman Valenzuela's district. Exotica Gentlemen's Club. Councilman, do you want to hear a staff recommendation first in the cards?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have a staff recommendation or staff report on Exotica Gentlemen's Club.
Mayor and members of the council, this request is for an ownership transfer of a Series 7 on-sale beer and wine license for a topless bar operating as Exotica Gentlemen Club. This location was previously licensed for liquor sales and is currently operating with an interim permit. Consideration may be only given to the applicant's personal qualifications and not to the location. Staff recommends disapproval of this application based on a police department recommendation for disapproval.
All right, thank you very much. We have one card on the item. I guess the applicant is, not here, but not wishing to speak. After you hear from the detective, you can make your choice. Detective Robin Gokul, are you here? Good to see you. I hope I did not butcher your last name. But if you could provide testimony on behalf of the police department, very much appreciated.
Yes, well, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and ladies and gentlemen of council. I am the abatement and liquor liaison for the Cactus Park Precinct. Basically, my recommendation for disapproval for Club Exotica located at 3790 West Grand Avenue, the applicant, Mr. McCarty. And basically as follows, I believe the applicant is not capable, reliable, or qualified to hold and control a liquor license due to the fact that Mr. McCarty owes unpaid taxes, outstanding judgments, and liens in excess of $500,000. All the judgments against him were incurred within the past 5 years.
Thank you very much. That's your report. Appreciate it. Any questions for the detective?
Not at this time, thank you. Perhaps after, thank you, Detective.
All right, so thank you for being here. Let's see, representing, not wishing to speak, but you can certainly change your mind if you want. Blair Driggs, the agent for the applicant, or Pete Shellstraight, attorney, I assume, for the applicant? Mr. Shellstraight, you want to provide testimony? Good to see you.
Yes, Pete Shellstraight for Nitro Flow, the applicant. Your Honor, we met with the police department, and as you'll note, if you look at the full police report, we've addressed all the other issues except the 2 judgments. Those 2 judgments are, not directly the fault or directly affecting the capability, qualification, or liability of my client, in that one was a result of a fire that had occurred, and the other was a tax audit of a business that he had sold, and he had retained an attorney to represent him for those issues. And the only real claim that my client's not capable is because he has these 2 judgments. He's had a liquor license in other states for over 18 years with no liquor violations.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Shellstraight. That's all the testimony we have for this item, unless Mr. Driggs, did you provide testimony? Okay.
Mayor, council members,
If you want to provide testimony, come to the microphone, please.
Mayor, council members, I'm available for any questions that you had in regards to the applicant's relationship with liquor laws and things like that, and the application itself. And I've been involved in the meetings with the detective and Mr. Shellstraight as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Driggs. Okay, Councilman Valenzuela, what's your pleasure?
Thanks, Mayor, and I appreciate all of you for being here on this particular case. When determining if someone is reliable and capable of operating a liquor license, it's critically important. So the judgments do play a factor. That's part of the process. I'm going to go with staff recommendation, and my motion is to, again, support staff recommendation in disapproval here.
Motions for disapproval. Do we have a second? We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments or questions from this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Gates?
Yes.
Nowakowski? Pastor?
Yes.
Valenzuela?
Yes.
Waring? Williams?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Mayor Stanton?
Yes, so the motion for denial passes unanimously. Next, do we have an omnibus motion for the remainder of the liquor licenses?
Move approval of items 2 through 4 and 6 through 16.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have cards on those items, but I think they're all wishing not to speak in support of the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Do we take care of item 5 in terms of the
I
continuance?
think Councilman Gates is going to make the motion.
Councilman Gates, you want to make a motion on item number 5, A1 Food Store?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Motion to continue this item to the May 4th, 2016 formal meeting. Appreciated the opportunity to meet with the owner of this, of the A1 Food Store yesterday, and he has told me that he's going to sit down with neighbors, including Genesis Church and the Alice Cooper Solid Rock Foundation, to discuss this case, and we'll look forward to seeing them on May 4th.
Motion to continue, have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Mayor?
Wait, I'm sorry, excuse me, Councilman DeCiccio?
Well, I just, oh, sorry about that. What item was that again?
This is item number 5, A1 Food Store. Councilman Gates has moved to continue that item. It's a motion to continue.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do it again. All in favor of Councilman Gates' motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Next, we'll move on to ordinances, resolutions, new business, planning and zoning. Do we have an omnibus motion on that? Vice Mayor.
I believe Councilman Waring has a motion on the March 23rd minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion in favor of the formal meeting minutes for March 23rd, 2016 for approval. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we'll move on to ordinances, resolutions, new business, planning and zoning.
Motion to approve items 17 through 82, except the following. Items 19G, 19H, 19V, 20, 33, 60, 77, 80, 81, and 82. Items 17 and 18 will be continued to May 18, 2016. Item 42 has been withdrawn. Items 62, 80, 81, and 82 are as corrected, and excluding these items for public comment, 20, 29, 42, 43, 48, 50, and 82.
Okay. I'm sorry. We have Mr. Clark. Item 42, the item you put a card in is scheduled to be withdrawn at this time. So I'll make sure you're aware of that. Okay. Okay, that's the omnibus motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. 19G, Vice Mayor.
Move approval of items 19G and 19H.
Mayor, I'd like to make comments on those.
Okay, let's get a second first. We have a second on 19G and H. We have a second. Councilman Williams.
I asked for clarification on G, and I received a response that was very unclear. If this is simply for Clear Channel Outdoor, I am supporting it, but if it is for a package deal with mixed vendors going through Outdoor Channel, I don't support it. Can somebody tell me if it's Clear
All right,
Channel?
can someone clear up, what are we doing with 19G? Who will be eligible for the advertising for police recruits? Councilman Williams, is you have similar type comments on 19H, or is there different comments?
A little different comment.
Okay, so this is just 19G for now.
Right.
Mayor and Council, I'm Executive Assistant Chief Dave Harvey with the Police Department, and I have Lieutenant Anthony Lopez, who's in charge of our hiring division. He can speak to the matter.
Is this simply for Clear Channel
19G is for electronic billboards.
with Clear Channel?
Clear Channel, yes.
That's it, okay. Then I am supportive of this item. On H, I find it very difficult to believe the Phoenix New Times is the correct demographics for us to recruit police officers, and I do not support that. So if we could take G separately from H?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'd like to revise my original motion to just approval of item 19G, which is the Clear Channel item.
Second.
Okay, so a motion in favor of 19G. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passed unanimously. 19H, why new times?
The Phoenix Police Department embarked on its first advertising campaign essentially in the last 6 years. This was an introductory package that was supposed to last roughly 3 months. We attempted to use different advertising modes to support and enhance the recruitment plan for fiscal year 15-16. This included electronic billboards, transit shelters, transit bus cards, and in an effort to increase our digital profile, a digital media enhancement campaign, essentially. The Phoenix New Times offered us kind of a multi-layered package, which included some print ads, web banner displays, but as well as a digital media and social media package. The recruitment team for the police department is using social media and specifically Facebook to enhance its communication with the community. We felt that this package, this initial package with the Phoenix New Times would help us deliver the results. Specifically, we asked this vendor to target Hispanics, and so they designed their social media outreach to specifically identify people who were English-speaking Hispanics that lived in Phoenix, Glendale, and Chandler, that had a military background, as well as showing interest in the academy and within the age demographic of what would be a police recruit. So we felt this initial investment was worthwhile.
Okay. Any other questions on 19H?
Mayor,
Councilman DeCiccio, please.
just a quick question. Who is the vendor, and how come it's not listed on this?
19H, I believe is Phoenix New Times. What is 19H? That's
No, I understand that part, Mayor. I'm sorry. It was he said something about we requested from a vendor as an individual who goes out there and places these ads in different places.
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
that
Okay.
what we're working through, or is it direct?
So you understand the councilman's questions. A vendor is the one recommending New Times?
No, the Phoenix New Times is the vendor. They offered us print ads as well as they have a social media enhancement team.
I see, okay.
And
I get it.
So they have
I thought we were going through a middle person.
So they have social media expertise that we want to utilize. Excellent.
Got it.
Okay. Other questions, Councilman?
No, thank you.
All right. Any other questions by members of this council? Roll call. Oh, we do have a motion yet? I'm sorry. We need a motion on
Above
19H.
19H.
We have a motion on 19H. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, I think 6-3, the item passes. 19V, I believe, is next.
Move approval of 19V.
We have a second on 19V.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 19V. Are there any comments or questions on 19V? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes 7-2. Next item is item number 20. Vice Mayor?
Item number 20 is the consideration of a citizen petition related to the Roosevelt Business Improvement District. This one sets an interesting precedent, and it's a little disconcerting. If someone were to dislike a petition or a decision by the council, we could continually reconsider it, and I think we need to respect the finality of council decisions. Almost every council decision leaves someone unhappy, and so were we to continue to reconsider them, it would be difficult to do business in the city of Phoenix. Our own council rules contemplate that, and that is why only someone who is in a majority can reconsider it. So based on that precedent, I move denial of the petition on the basis that it is an improper motion for reconsideration, and it sets the wrong precedent.
We have a motion to deny the petition. Do we have a second on that? Second. We have a motion. We have a second. There are cards on this. I'm going to hear the cards, and then we'll take a vote on to based upon the motion. Bramley Paulin, did you wish to provide testimony on and then followed by Greg Esser and then Eric Bear.
Mayor and Council, for the record, my name is Bramley Paulin. I'm the petitioner. I do not consider this a reconsideration. I think that's misunderstood. I believe my petition was very clearly written. I'm not asking for reconsideration. I am asking that the council recognize state law. The law was acted in March, and to be in concert with state law, of which you have all taken an oath to support, request that you remove this and follow the state law. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paulin. Any questions? Mr. Greg Esser?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. My name is Greg Esser. I'm a business and property owner within the Roosevelt Business Improvement District, and I want to take a moment to thank the mayor and council for continuing to support the wishes of a majority of the property owners in this area to move forward with this a critically important economic development tool for our neighborhood. We have a number of other folks that are in the audience that don't wish to speak but are here in support of the item as well. If they can just stand briefly. This is literally hundreds of people that have been working for a period of more than 3 years now to move this forward. As you're aware, we recently had House Bill 2440 pass, and I think we still need time to understand the implications of that. There's a 90-day period before the law actually goes into effect, so the petition is in fact premature at this stage. I would also encourage you to know that we need time to look at the statewide implications of this new bill and look at what the statewide coalition of partners that are impacted by this have to say as we have time to vet, air, and consider the bill. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Esser. Eric Bear?
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. I've heard that the majority of the property owners support this. Well, under the new state law, then it's very easy. They should get busy, get the petition, and get the property owner signed. There is absolutely no evidence right now that the majority of the property owners support this. And so the idea of open, honest, transparent government where the stakeholders who are the property owners get a chance to sign the petition. It's very simple. And whether you spent 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, if you did it wrong, then you have to restart again. And we are all, as one of the property owners in the area, we are all looking forward to seeing the petition to be presented to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bear. Mr. Leonard Clark, did you have testimony on this item?
My name is Leonard Clark. I'm from the city of Phoenix, lived here all my life, born right down the street of Grand Canyon. Sorry, not Grand Canyon University. Phoenix Banner, which is now called Good Samaritan. Hey, I'd just like to state that, you know, I actually, and this is hard for me to believe because, you know, I'm a tree-hugging, like, bleeding heart liberal, but I don't think there should be a taxing district until the citizens can vote. Because I've been up here the last year or so, and I've been watching this new Arizona Democratic Spring that we're having and having across America. And I just think that City of Phoenix has really set the example. Our charter was put in by some progressive, forward-thinking people. The charter states that citizens can present these petitions. So I think we have 3 scenarios at least that I can think of off the top of my head now, because I'm not for it. Either you guys vote for a referendum and let the citizens decide, and I know you'll say, wait, Leonard, we're the representatives, you know, that's what we're here for. 2, the citizens get together, which I would support in a citywide initiative, you know, because, and 3, though, this is a legal issue now, you know, and the thing is, it's in our city charter. So now you're telling citizens that they can't, which is specifically in the charter about, you know, being able to present a petition or something, and you guys do that. If you guys don't like it, then go back and change the charter. because we've been like doing that with the United States Constitution, Fourth Amendment, First Amendment. Powerful people can just change it when they feel like it. But even though this is a Republican, Democratic form of government, the City Charter of Phoenix, put in by our forefathers and foremothers, to be fair, they have essentially stated that citizens can put in a petition. So if you do this, in a way, it's like thumbing your nose at the city charter. So go back and change the charter, or have a referendum vote for us all vote on it, or then I guess you're going to force citizens who think they shouldn't be taxed, which I have to agree with them, to have an initiative, and then let the citizens of Phoenix decide. But this now is an issue of the charter, a legal issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see. Opposed to the petition, I'm assuming, not the motion, opposed to the petition is Jim McPherson, not wish to speak, representing Evans Churchill. Kevin Ryle, representing the McKinley Club. Let's see, Sherry Rampy, Dorina Bustamante, and Wayne Rainey. Any other, is anyone else here wishing to speak on this item? All right, we have a motion. Councilman Waring, you may.
Thank you. I'm just curious about in reference to the comment about the thing is moving forward. What's actually being done at the moment?
What's being done at the moment as it relates to the bid itself?
Yeah, as in terms of just moving forward in general with this project, with the new state law that hasn't gone into effect but will in fairly short order.
Well, Mr. Esser can probably speak more definitively to it, but I know that
I guess
neighborhood leaders are talking to each other, but at this
well, he
point,
referenced
from
the
city,
mayor and council still being supportive. I was just curious if we are actually doing anything as a city at Brett. It sounds like nothing.
At this point, no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
although that may be a subject matter of an e-session at a later time, which would be appropriate.
I understand. I just was confused by it.
Councilman Pastor, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I have the formation of the Roosevelt Business Improvement District. My understanding is just a formation, and then it was going to be up to the citizens within that area to form a board and to determine what they wanted to do. I just need clarity on that.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, your understanding is correct. That there, at this point, the board, but as far as the city, it's suspended. We're not taking any further action. It's been discussed that there'll be a potential item for e-session, but that's the extent of any action right now.
Okay, so it's just a formation of a Roosevelt Business Improvement District. Nothing else.
District has been formed.
Right.
And Mr. Blue is working with economic development. Paul, if there's anything you want to add on that.
There's nothing. Mayor and Council, your actions in January formed the district pursuant to state law, created a boundary pursuant to state law, and then you gave us the direction to go and work with the community to develop a board, a budget, and a proposed assessment, and bring that back to you. And we did work on that in the intervening time. Obviously, the state legislature and the governor acted. And so we have stood down, and we have not taken affirmative action carrying that forward.
So I guess where I'm going is in forming a board, the board will then determine what their budget is, if there's a budget, and we will determine how they want to move forward.
Mayor, Councilwoman Passport, absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we have
Mayor?
Councilman, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to have the city attorney read the language into the record as to what we're talking about and we're voting on today. And that this is going to be one of those rare instances that Leonard Clark and I completely agree on. If people don't like the charter, which is the law, then they ought to change that. The precedent would be to deny an individual's right to petition their government. That would be more of a problem. But I'd like to have the city attorney read the language pertaining to this into the record.
What? Okay. I could read it. I don't care. I don't want to put the city attorney in an awkward position. Obviously, there's a dilemma here, and we're making a judgment call as to how to handle it.
Mayor, before the city attorney reads the charter language, just to clarify, my understanding of the motion is it's to deny the petition. That is within the charter. The charter says the council needs to act on a petition. Denying it is an action. So that's sort of the simple layperson's term of it. But if you'd like, Mr. Brown can read the charter language.
I don't think the city, one council member shouldn't be able to direct a particular staff person to read something. If he wants to read it, he can certainly read it.
Well, no, I'd like to have it in the record.
So do you have it in front of you? You don't have it in front of you? Is that the
No.
issue, Councilman?
No.
Okay,
I
I'll
don't
read
have
it in the
front
record
of me.
then.
Read it.
As long as someone reads it in the record, I'm fine.
You want the entire?
It's kind of weird to
what
have
would
a
you
mayor
like
tell
read
me what
read
I
into the
can and
record?
can't ask, but that's fine. I've never had a mayor tell me that before.
Say it again, Councilman.
I've never had a mayor tell me what I can and cannot ask a city attorney to do. We do this on a regular basis, so I don't understand what the rub is here. But I'd like to have somebody read.
Did you want to ask him a question? What you're doing is directing him to
I'm asking him
read
to
something
read
into the
into the
record,
record.
which you're certainly capable of doing. You shouldn't direct someone else to do that. Obviously, staff are not trained SEALs; they're professionals, and we should treat them as such. But I will respect your request, and I will do so.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any citizen of the city may appear before the council at any regular council meeting and present a written petition. Such petition shall be acted on by the council in the regular course of business within 15 days. Councilman, you have any comments?
No, I just wanted to make sure he got into the record.
Yes, it's not only in the record, it's actually part of our city charter. Okay. Any other comments by members of this council? Roll call.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor. Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Did you miss me?
DeCiccio.
No.
And I vote yes. So the
I apologize, I misspoke. I meant to say no.
okay. So Councilman Gates misspoke. I think it's because the order, how it was ordered. Yeah. So on Councilwoman Gallego's motion, Councilman Gates is a no. So the motion passes 6-3. Okay. Next item on the agenda, Vice Mayor.
Move approval of item 29.
We have a motion and second. Is there a card on 29? Got Mr. Leonard Clark, do you have comments on item number 29?
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I am a resident of the city of Phoenix. Thank you for letting me speak. Born right down the street at Good Samaritan Hospital. This time I got it right, not Grand Canyon University. But I am just here to say in all seriousness to you, thank you if you vote yes for this. Whether you're a conservative, a liberal, or whatever, this isn't about politics. In this age, especially when Arizona is near the bottom of the list for its funding of children, thank God that we have this program called Head Start for our children in Phoenix. We're the 6th largest city, as you know, maybe higher now, right, in the country. So it's very important that these programs that we have continue on, because right now, unfortunately, as you know, we're just not getting that support down the street here from our friends in the legislature. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do any council members have comments on this item? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passed unanimously. Next item, Vice Mayor, I believe is 33.
Move approval of item 33.
The motion and second. Councilman Valenzuela, did you have comments or questions on 33?
Just a comment, I want to congratulate all the recipients, Eco Studios, Local First Arizona, Seat Spot, Hustle Phoenix, Jenny Poon, Kimber Lanning, Courtney Klein, Leah Waddell, all of which have really become cornerstones of the entrepreneurial community and the startup community. And you know, I'm really excited about this when it's going to continue to move our economy forward, because they will maximize every dime of these resources. So I'm very pleased and obviously incredibly supportive.
Thank you very much, Councilman Valenzuela. Any other comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item 48. Vice Mayor?
I think item 43, move approval of item 43.
I'm sorry. Move approval of 43. We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Greta Rogers, you have a comment on item number? Oh, she wasn't able to stay? Let's see, Ms. Greta Rogers was in favor of the item. Mr. Leonard Clark, do you have testimony on item 43? You're marked as neutral. Mr. Leonard Clark? I apologize. 43 is the item on the agenda right now, and you had marked neutral on that item. That is authorization to apply for, accept, and enter an agreement for the high-intensity drug trafficking area grant.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor. My name is Leonard Clark, resident of Phoenix, born right down the street at Good Samaritan Hospital. And the thing is, you know, I think that it's nice that we're looking at the symptoms. If you live in a high-intensity drug trafficking neighborhood, you know, you're glad sometimes to see law enforcement, but other times maybe you're not glad. I don't know. All I know is it's putting our law enforcement in a dangerous position. I just think as our ethical and moral leaders of this city, I mean, you know, we're going after the symptoms here. We're throwing people in jail over these drugs rather than treating them in addiction programs like they do in Europe. And yes, I know everybody hates Europe. You know, you guys do have the power of the pulpit. You were elected. You are ethical and moral leaders of the city. Just because in Washington, D.C., they have this endless war on drugs, imprisoning many of our residents of Phoenix for marijuana and these other things, why not ask deeper questions such as, why are people addicted to this drug? If it's illegal, how can we get them help? Should we change the law? Why is it that the alcohol industry is not illegal and many people are addicted to it? Do we have high trafficking alcohol task enforcement, you know, groups going out after people who are addicted to alcohol? No. So there's something that really does not smell right about it. So yes, our officers in blue and all of these, you know, that go out and protect us are in a tough position. They just enforce the laws. But you are the guys, the ethical and moral leaders, that should stand up. You don't have to have the status quo. You got to break that sociological circle. So I'm neutral, yes, because it's easy for me to say that when I don't live in a neighborhood where there's a drug dealer outside of my house or my apartment, and I'm just a little kid trying to go to school. But we need to do something than just continue with this insane system that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard Clark. We have motion. We have second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item is 48.
Move approval of item 48, authorization to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with ASU for the Smart Policing Initiative Grant.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Clark, you have similar testimony? No problem. Okay, so on item 48, we have motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, sorry, I'm a roll call. I apologize.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego. Yes. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passed unanimously. Item 50 is next.
Move approval of item 50, authorization to enter into an agreement with the Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Clark, want to provide testimony on that one? This is enter an agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration.
Yes, thank you. And first of all, thank you to law enforcement and everybody who has to put their life on the line because of these inadequate, outdated, archaic laws. Again, this is Washington, D.C., the big beast in Washington, D.C. You know, when it moves, we have to like jump around like wagging its tail. It's the big, huge beast that wags its tail, and we must act upon what they do. We don't have to continue this insane, drawn-out, illogical war on drugs. You know, insanity is doing the same thing over and over. It's not working. We're imprisoning American citizens, including those of Phoenix, in jail to enrich the private prison industry. So you want to protect the alcohol industry while going after people who use medical and recreational marijuana. I'm sure Vladimir Putin would love and approve this plan, as sure as Red China would too. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is 60.
Move approval of item 60.
Second.
Does the city clerk have to read the title? Do you read the title, or is it?
Councilman Williams, as always, is correct. City Clerk first should read the title, then a motion. I apologize.
Item 60, ordinance G6146, an ordinance amending residential parking permit ordinance, Phoenix City Code Section 36-157.3 by adding a new Area 28.
Mayor, if I could make a comment, please?
Please.
I want to thank staff for all the time and efforts they put into this. ASU West has very expensive parking, and the students preferred to block neighborhoods, and people could not park at their own homes, and staff has worked out a solution for us with the neighborhood. So I tell them how much I appreciate their time and efforts, and the neighbors for sticking with this. And I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? Additional comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Next item is 77 on our planning and zoning agenda. So now we're on our planning and zoning agenda. Item number 77, do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
A motion, a second. Councilman DeCiccio, you want to declare a potential conflict?
Motion to approve.
No, this is item 77. I think you might have a potential conflict on this item. I just
Oh,
want
that's the ballot. That's right. I see it in front of me.
Okay, so-
Conflict, Mayor. Thank you.
No problem. Councilman DeCiccio has a potential conflict and will not be participating in this item. Are there any cards in this item? Any comments or questions by a member of this council? Roll call.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item, I believe, is item number 80. Do we have a short staff report on item number 80? Then I'll hold a public hearing. And then see if we have a motion. Mr. Alan Stevenson is our planning director. Do you have a staff report on this item?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, I'll be brief, and then we do have a PowerPoint if there's any questions that the council desires. This item is a general plan amendment and the resulting resolution to add place types for the transit district areas for 50th Street in Washington and along the South Central Avenue light rail extension from Washington down to Baseline Road. It was approved by the Camelback East Village Planning Committee by a 14-0 vote, Central City Village Planning Committee by a 13-3 vote, and the South Mountain Village Planning Committee recommended approval by a 12-1 vote. This item was continued a couple weeks back by the council to have some additional discussion really around two place types. One of those is the Baseline Station, and that, as per the memo that came out yesterday from me, has that being a minor place type, and then the Audubon Station place type also goes to a medium with some qualifications that would need to be met in order for that particular place type to earn the rights to a higher level of development. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Stevenson? All right, so now I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 80. Public hearing is now open. Are there any cards on the item? Is anyone here wishing to speak on item number 80? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is now closed. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion on item number 80?
Motion to approve per the memo from the Planning and Development Director dated April 19, 2016, and adopt the related resolution.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any additional comments or questions from this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item passed unanimously. Next on the agenda is item number 81. Item 81 has to do with some proposed zoning rules as it relates to tobacco-oriented retailers. Similar to last item, I'll start out with a staff report, hold the public hearing, and see if there's a motion. Mr. Stevenson, do we have a staff report on item 81?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'll be brief again. We do have a PowerPoint if anyone wants additional information. This is, as you noted, a text amendment to the zoning ordinance to include electronic nicotine delivery systems and narrow the exemptions for building area and floor space related to tobacco-oriented retailers. In addition, the amendment will increase the separation requirements between parks, schools, public recreation centers to a quarter mile, 1,320 feet, and also has language added to other protected uses, places of worship, dependent care facilities, homeless shelters, and youth community centers as defined in the ordinance. This went through the Village Planning Committee process. It was approved by 14 of the Village Planning Committees and approved by the Planning Commission. The Neighborhood NHD Subcommittee approved it yesterday, subject to the Planning Commission recommendation. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stevenson. Are there any questions for him? Councilman Waring.
Just kind of the long and short of it is there anything in here that makes it easier for these operations to locate? Is there anything that makes it so they can make it closer to neighborhoods or anything like that?
Mayor,
Stevenson.
Councilman Waring, no, there's not. It makes it tougher for them to locate anywhere in the city.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm now going to open the public hearing on item number 81. Public hearing is now open. Are there any cards on 81? I only have one card here, not wishing to speak in favor of staff recommendation. Brian Hummel, representing the Arizona Cancer Society. Did you wish to provide testimony or just submit a card for the record? Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on item number 81? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on item number 81?
Councilman Gates has a comment.
Councilman Gates, you had a comment or question? I apologize.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a question for Mr. Stevenson. In the section on the definition of tobacco-oriented retailer, I know we had talked in the past about the issue that there are some places where they're actually, and let's call this what it is. In some instances, it might be tobacco, but in a lot of our areas, it includes selling drug paraphernalia. And under the current ordinance, it says that 15% of the floor space has to go to the sale display of tobacco-related products. And is that being changed here?
Mayor, Councilman Gates, yes, that is being reduced from 15% to 5%.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that we have this clear because the materials that were provided in the packet, it says a tobacco-oriented retailer must not include any establishment over 10,000 square feet in gross floor area or any establishment devoting less than 155%. So that's, should the 15 have been struck?
Mayor, Councilman Gates, you're correct. There was a typo in the agenda. All the other backup materials that were they're advertising, the various materials that the Planning Commission and the subcommittee acted on had it printed correctly where the 15 was struck out and then the 5. But in making the agenda, that 15 got left off, so it looks like 155, but that is not at all the intent, not what was advertised, and not the action before council today. It is a reduction from 15% to 5% for that exception area.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure we had that clear for the record since that's part of the agenda here. Alan, I want to thank you and your team for putting a lot of work into this. In particular, we had a lot of issues in our area where folks were opening up smoke shops near places that, in particular, youth community centers. Very pleased to see that addition. The spacing requirements now apply to youth community centers, recreation centers, places of worship. So I think to Councilman Waring's question, this is going to do a lot to protect our neighborhoods and our places where youth congregate. So thank you for your work on this, and I know that Councilman Valenzuela was very involved in pushing this forward as well, so I want to thank him and everyone on the council for their support on this item. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilman Gates, any other comments? Do we need a motion? We need a motion. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve per the Neighborhood Housing and Development Subcommittee and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on an 8-0 motion. Next item on the agenda is item 82, which is the last item on our agenda today. Item 82 has to do with some proposed regulations as it relates to medical marijuana in the city of Phoenix. Mr. Stevenson will follow the same procedure here, staff report, then we'll hold a public hearing. There are some cards on the item, and then we'll see if there is a motion on the item. If you could please give your staff report, and also to alleviate any confusion, maybe go through the distinction between the staff recommendation and what the Planning Commission has recommended, so we understand what we're discussing here today. Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This one, we do have a PowerPoint I'd like to go through because it highlights that. I also have Ms. Sandy Hoffman here with me, Deputy Director, who is going to help with the presentation. So a couple of background items to be aware of for the council as you contemplate these regulations. You'll recall the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act, when it was put in place, it gave rulemaking authority to the Department of Health Services. They instituted a rule that required dispensaries to be spaced throughout the state in what's called CHAWs, which are community health analysis areas. Within those areas, we have 15 of those that roughly correlate to the village planning areas for the city of Phoenix. Their rules do allow for dispensaries, although to be spaced out within the first 3 years. After that, they can move back into more populous parts of the state. So we are seeing a few dispensaries who want to come into more popular parts of the state. It also included an escalation clause that required the Department of Health Services to allow for an additional dispensary certificate for every 10 pharmacies that are opened within the state. So for all the Walgreens and CVS's that open, it had a built-in clause for additional dispensaries. And so that would allow today 129 dispensary certificates, although currently there are only 99 throughout the state. We have received word from the Department of Health Services that they're going to allow an additional 30 dispensary certificates sometime this summer. So that is why we bring this item to you as an emergency clause, and has gone through the process quickly to make sure that we have these tighter rules in place to protect the public with these new ones coming on board. A couple items to note is there was a bill during this last legislative cycle that looked at keeping that spacing requirement across the whole state to 1 per CHA. However, that bill did not pass and died. The other item that's out there to be considered as you contemplate this is there are signatures that are being gathered and have been turned in. I believe it's over 200,000 signatures have been turned in at this point for regulation and taxation of marijuana initiative. And this would treat marijuana like a recreational use and treat it like liquor as part of its proposal. There's a whole lot of moving parts to that. It's not yet law, but the important part as related to this is that it does include a grandfathering clause in. So for any of these medical marijuana establishments that get in under our current rules, they're grandfathered in and automatically allowed to sell recreational marijuana in the future. If the initiative does pass by the voters, we would go through a process to adopt zoning rules and regulations for those throughout the city, but we would have to automatically grandfather in all of these ones, so that's why it's of particular importance. And
Mr. Stevenson, Councilman Waring had a quick question about the point you made earlier.
Thank you. So on the previous slide, you talked about the 30 that could come online this summer, right? So they would all be grandfathered in if we didn't do what we're doing now, and then they would all become recreational if the item passed at the ballot in November?
Right, Mayor, Councilman Waring, if we don't act now, they could open under our existing rules, which allow them to be located a little bit closer to neighborhoods and other protected uses. If we enact these rules, they still could locate and open pursuant to these more strict rules, and then would be grandfathered in under the initiative.
I guess, Mayor, so I understood that some of them could, but all 30... They couldn't do all 30 if we make this change, or they still could, because they're already in the system?
Mayor and Councilman Waring, so 30 is across the entire state. That's not our allocation.
Oh, right, outside.
We don't know how many are going to be located in the Phoenix CHA system. We do know one of the criteria that DHS is leaning heavily on in their draft rules is the amount of the population of cardholders within a CHA. So right now, if you have one dispensary in a CHA, but that CHA area has a lot of medical marijuana cardholders, that's one of the criteria they're using to do some additional allocation of them. So we would anticipate getting at least a number of these ones coming in. I, again, don't know how many, but a number of them would, in theory, be eligible to locate in Phoenix. We want to have these rules in place, so they would have to abide by them, and then they would get grandfathered in under the initiative if it's passed.
I hope voters recognize this switch to recreational for the current dispensaries. I just wonder how much that's going to be featured in any campaign about this. But, okay, at least this helps some. I mean, I wish we could do more, but our hands are a little bit tied, right? We can't do anything about what's already happened, right? We can't change the rules for the ones that are already in place.
Mayor and Councilman Waring, that is correct. We can't do anything retroactive, and we can't use our zoning authority to zone them out of existence. We have to legally allow them to be located in the city. It is the state law, even though there's some conflicts with federal law, but it is something that, we can't use our zoning authority to say we don't want those. We have to allow them. They just have to be in appropriate areas within the community.
Understand. I think some neighborhoods and so forth are going to be pretty surprised when they wake up after Election Day and there's this change that's been made to already existing establishments. But hopefully everybody pays attention and votes the way they feel comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stevens, keep going.
Mayor, members of council, Sandy's going to walk us through the different spacing requirements here so that everyone understands, and she'll also cover the Planning Commission recommendation versus staff.
So what the proposed text amendment's going to do is to create new spacing for the medical marijuana facilities. So when we have MMJ up there on the screen, that stands for the cultivation, infusion, and dispensaries. So what we're creating is a spacing requirement from dependent care facilities, and so that'll be 1,320 feet or a quarter mile. We're also creating a new spacing with youth community centers, the same 1,320 feet. Now, youth community center, the definition for that is the building has to be at least 18,000 square feet. A nonprofit should run that, and they should have formalized education for children under 18 years of age. It will also increase the area distance that we have from places of worship. So from 500 feet, it would go to 1/4 mile. And we are also creating a new spacing requirement from homeless shelters, and that would be 1/4 mile as well. Right now, for dispensaries, there's a spacing requirement from residential districts of 250 feet. This text amendment will double that to 500 feet. For cultivation and infusion from residential zoning districts, we are not going to change any of the spacing. It's going to stay at 1,000 feet. And we're not changing the spacing between the medical marijuana facilities and the schools. They're still going to stay at the 1/4 mile. We currently have spacing of 1 mile between dispensaries. That's not changing with this proposal. And the current spacing between cultivation and infusion and dispensaries is 1 mile as well. So what we currently are proposing with staff recommendation was that we would keep the 1 mile spacing between cultivation and infusion, but the Planning Commission proposal, their recommendation was to reduce that to be 1/3 of a mile, so 1,760 feet. Just so you know, cultivation facilities can be located in S1 and S2, which are ranch type of single-family developments, as well as industrial areas, A1 and A2. And the infusion is only allowed in the industrial zoning district. So we did an analysis over the whole city to determine what the impact was going to be with the proposed changes in the spacing. And so with the existing regulations that we have now without adopting this text amendment, there's 14,044 acres that are available for dispensaries. With the proposed spacing requirements per staff recommendation, there would be about a little over 8,000 acres available for dispensaries. The cultivation and infusion currently with citywide, there's about 44,950 acres. If we follow staff proposed dimensions for spacing, there'd be about 35,000 acres. And if we were to follow the Planning Commission recommendation where we reduce the spacing between infusion and cultivation to 1/3 of a mile, there would be about 41,000 acres available for that. We took this text amendment to all of the village planning committees, and out of the village planning committee, 6 of them approved the staff recommendation. 4 of them approved it with modifications, and 4 of them denied it as proposed by staff.
So with that, Mayor and Council, staff does recommend the approval of this text amendment per the NHD subcommittee recommendation yesterday. That did also include language that added in a phrase about having some additional odor requirements such that we will work with the marijuana industry to adopt some building code changes that would in fact have them do additional higher standards for some of their equipment so that they don't emit any odor outside of any of these medical marijuana facilities. That is something that other cities have experienced, like Denver and some of those places. So it is just a reference in the zoning ordinance, but it really will be worked out with the industry related to exactly what it will be. And we'll have a process to talk with them. We have a draft of it, but we want to sit down and talk with them a little bit more about exactly what that would be, and that would be part of the building code, not the zoning ordinance, but it would be a better way to enforce and ensure that there is an odor that's coming out of these as opposed to a more general nuisance type of standard that is what the city typically uses.
Okay, Councilman, you had a question?
I'm not going to make a motion. I had a question.
It's not time for a motion.
Oh,
We still
okay.
have- We still have a public hearing, so we have staff report. I don't know if you had a question about the report. Then we're going to go to public hearing, and then we'll have the opportunity for council to make comments after a motion. Okay. So, thank you very much for that excellent staff report. I'll now hold the public hearing on item number 82. Oh, you had a question? I'm sorry,
Sorry, you
Councilman?
actually did have a question about the staff report.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Did you have a question,
as well?
Councilman?
I had a question. I
apologize.
I misunderstood maybe what you
I
said.
thought you were wait till later. I'm
sorry. So on page, sorry, I turned away from it. On page, doesn't have a page, on page 110, down at the bottom, 93C. So I'm not sure I heard you say it explicitly. Maybe you did and I didn't catch it. The recommendation, the staff recommendation does not include the reduction to 1,760 feet, correct?
Mayor, Council Warren, that is correct.
Correct. So it's still a mile.
It's still a
Okay.
mile.
I just want to
and-
make sure, because here, well, in any case, as long as you're sure.
It's an evolving process because the original staff recommendation was a mile, but then it goes through the village. Then the planning commission makes a decision that typically when the planning
So
commission.
this is dated, is that?
Right, so
Okay,
the
all right.
planning commission, we had the packet and that information had to be done before NHD heard it yesterday. So NHD elected to go with the staff recommendation, not the planning commission
I
recommendation.
just want to make sure, because I thought that was the case, but then I was reading it, and it seemed like maybe it wasn't. But as long as you're sure, okay.
Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. When you were describing a youth center, you said it had to have an educational component? Can it have a recreational component instead of just an educational?
So, Mayor, Councilwoman Williams, it is, it can have a recreational component in addition to educational, but it is, the definition was specifically modeled after the Boys and Girls Clubs and those larger facilities. One of the discussions that happened back in February at the NHD subcommittee was a discussion about possibly looking at including things like karate schools and other kid-focused recreational items, or recreational businesses. The problem that staff has with that is we don't know where those are located. And so in order to enforce the spacing requirement, we have to know where facilities are. So we worked with the law department to come up with a definition where we can find and monitor those ones because they're substantial size, they have that educational component, they have a nonprofit, so that we clearly know where they're located so that we can inform somebody when they want to come in, here's the use you have to avoid. The concern from staff is if you go with something that's just recreational or that's smaller, we won't be able to have a good list. And if somebody will say, well, the city gave me a building permit to do all my tenant improvements, I signed a 5-year lease for this facility, and now the neighbors say there's a karate school around the corner, for example, and we wouldn't have known there's a karate school because we don't require them to register in any specific way. They're just a business that's open in a shopping center. And so that's the problem with a more, encompassing definition of those facilities.
And so like a dance studio, that wouldn't be educational, is that recreational? Because I know a lot of young girls are in dance classes.
Correct. A dance
Those are in strip
school
centers.
wouldn't fit in that as well. That has to be that 18,000 square feet. It has to be those larger ones. And it really is because we don't have a way to monitor that. And given the spacing requirements we're putting in on a lot of these establishments, it is making it very difficult for them to locate, as you see by the spacing requirements. So it is something that, to be even more inclusive, would reduce that area even more.
There's no way you can require someone coming in to get a permit to have one of these to prove that they are not located by any of those facilities, is there?
Mayor, Councilwoman Williams, as part of our medical marijuana process, they're all required to get a use permit. So every one of the 30-some establishments we have today has gone through a public hearing process in order to locate. And as part of that process, we administer those spacing requirements. The concern is that where we don't know some of these smaller facilities, we're not going to be able to have a good map, be able to direct people where to go. And by virtue of that, they're going to say, well, we think it's good. They're going to apply for permits. We're going to go through the process and say, do you meet the building issues, all those things. And then later on, someone will point out, well, wait a minute, here's one of these facilities around the corner, type of thing. And at that point, they have relied on the city and us saying that, yes, it's okay to locate there, and we would be liable potentially for any claims by them from that.
So you can't put the burden on them, it's on us.
Mayor and Councilman Williams, I don't believe we can put the burden entirely on them because we won't know where those are in order to verify it. So that's the discrepancy.
Thank you.
Councilman Gates?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me ask that a little bit differently then. So if you have a use permit hearing for a medical marijuana dispensary and that karate facility comes in, it's 18,000 square feet, or, we can change it, and they say, we're here, we're within the spacing requirement, hearing officer, you should therefore deny it. Is that
right? That would be
appropriate?
something they could make that claim as part of the hearing process. Yes.
Just to delve into this a little bit deeper then, the community center, it refers to, like you said, you use the Boys and Girls Club as an example, a nonprofit. So do they have spacing requirements from the city of Phoenix community centers?
Yes, because that's already part of the spacing requirements.
So then what about a facility like the Rock at 32nd Street and Thunderbird, which has, tutoring services? It's 18,000 square feet. It has tutoring services. It has music classes and things like that. Where does that fall under this proposed definition?
Mayor, Councilman Gates, without knowing more specifics about it, it's hard to render a decision here about that. I will say that we are happy to meet with anyone if the council knows of areas within their district that they believe meets that definition. It's in Section 202 of this text amendment. If you think you have ones, have them contact my office and we'll sit down and meet with them and see. And if it's something that they meet the definition, we can look to add them, to the database that we have. We certainly want to make sure we have an accurate database as much as possible. But until we get into a little bit of the details of what they do, we won't know. But we're happy to figure out some of those ones that don't quite fit the boys and girls mold, if there are some out there.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you. Just to sort of revisit my question from the previous item, is there anything about this that makes it easier on these operations to locate or anything else?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, no.
Okay, thank you. Is within the confines of state law? Is there anything about this that could be toughened up beyond what we're doing in this item?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, staff does not believe so. We have had extensive discussions with the law department about how we craft this ordinance. And as I said earlier, we can't use our zoning authority to zone them out of existence, but we are, making it so that there are places for them to locate, albeit difficult for them to find. It is in areas that are appropriate from our community standpoint of where they should locate.
I'm envisioning a scenario where the initiative passes at the state level, and then we get the calls of complaint when all these organizations turn into recreational facilities. So again, I just reiterate my point earlier. We're doing everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen to you. But some of you out there in the audience, it is by definition going to happen to, and we can't do anything to change that. So your opportunity to mitigate some of this is probably to vote no. I'm envisioning a scenario where we just have to say our hands are tied and there's nothing else we can do. But I want to say, when I do tell people that, if the thing does pass, that's true. We did everything we could possibly do, and it sounds like you guys are saying, this is it. Vote for this, and you've done everything you can do.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, staff believes that to be correct, yes.
And again, I'm not suggesting zoning them out of existence. Within the confines of the law and the framework that we have, we're doing everything we can do. So I appreciate your efforts, and hopefully it'll make a difference for at least some people.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions before we hold the public hearing? I will now move on to the public hearing on item number 82. Public hearing is now open. I have a series of cards on item number 82. People wishing to provide testimony before this council. The first is Paul Barnes. Good to see you. Followed by Leonard Clark, followed by Dimitri Downing.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the City Council. I'm here to support the staff recommendation and what I understand is also the recommendation of the Neighborhood Housing and Development Subcommittee. There's been some confusion by the amendment that was proposed by the Planning Commission on 4-7. That was very narrowly passed by a 5-4 vote and seems to be contrary to the movement of the direction of the current text amendment, particularly as it involves cultivation and infusion facilities by increasing the distance over that recommended by staff. Also, I need to point out that that amendment has not been vetted before any of the village planning committees. The numbers that staff was giving for the different village planning committees were on the original staff recommendation, not the Planning Commission amendment. So I would urge that you support staff and the Neighborhood Housing Development Subcommittee and pass it as is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barnes. Leonard Clark, followed by Mr. Downing.
My name is Leonard Clark. I live in the city of Phoenix, and I would call this the Emergency Alcohol Protection Act. This is about fear. And I'm not even a liberal. I'm here to say to my friendly conservative friends, you don't discriminate against another legal business. Now, yes, you can say citizens have decided in the commissions, but really how much word have we sent out to the people that use medical marijuana, such as my fellow veterans at the Phoenix Veterans Administration who get their diagnoses there and their medication? This is not right to be throwing this through in a fearful way. This emergency clause is fear. You can say, yes, we have special sessions about selling alcohol, but this is clearly selectively using the law, selective enforcement to go after bona fide legal businesses. We've got to stop this. Now, you may not like it. I guess, did I like it? I was raised with people, that said, Lenny, those people are hippies. They're smoking dope. But why don't we ever talk about, and no offense, some of our drunk alcoholic relatives who tear up families and do great damage? We don't speak of them that way. They have a sickness. You are penalizing businesses. You are unconstitutionally harassing them. Again, I'm a liberal. I'm about regulations, but this is unfair because you are selectively, in my opinion, you are using selective enforcement to go after medical marijuana users. I'm sorry, get over it. Big Pharma is your enemy. They're putting out a lot of medicines that are causing people to crash their cars and kill other people. Alcohol, DUI, you know that. This is just about fear. We have to really look at this as a culture in Phoenix. But I know it's very hard for you because many of your members are very conservative religious folks. And to them, they give a pass to alcohol, but oh my God, it's reefer madness. It's the reefer madness movement. And by the way, I don't use it, even though some of my friends say I should. Then I probably wouldn't be here harassing you guys all the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Mr. Dimitri Downing, followed by Jason Madar.
Yes, I'm here in support of the Planning Commission's slightly well thought through improvement on what your staff has come up with. There's this misunderstanding between dispensaries and cultivations, and I was here about a year and a half ago congratulating Phoenix, City of Phoenix, for having a well thought through, well, it wasn't even well thought through because these ordinances are being created out of the dark. They're just, people are grasping at straws trying to figure out how this industry works. I know how this industry works. I was a prosecutor for 10 years, did government relations in Tucson. I defended drug dealers for a year. And for the last 3.5 years, I've been in the middle of this industry. I'm an expert in this industry. Cultivation centers and dispensaries are two entirely different things. Cultivations, I'm not going to deal with the fears, and even though he's right in regards to dispensaries and all that kind of stuff, cultivation centers are where your job's at. Cultivation centers are warehouses that are being rented. Landlords are happy to rent them out. They have security cameras. They're state licensed. They're very secure. Nothing is happening there. On your way home, you'll pass by 10. 3.5 years, your police officers are here. There probably hasn't been one incident at any cultivation center or dispensaries, but we'll leave dispensaries alone. I understand politics. You guys have to do what you do for political reasons. But cultivations, you are specifically sending a message that jobs go elsewhere. If you don't, and this is what the Planning Commission was getting at, they started to see this because they're thinking about it, they're not just reacting. If you encourage the cultivation centers to leave Phoenix, you're encouraging the jobs to go elsewhere. You're encouraging these vacant warehouses to stay vacant. It has absolutely no negative impact on the community whatsoever. As a matter of fact, Tucson copied Phoenix to expand their cultivation ordinance so they could get some of the jobs too. But guess what? They were way behind you guys. Why? Because somebody accidentally on city staff in 2011 allowed for unlimited grow space, which drew a lot of the cultivation centers here, which was fantastic for Phoenix. City of Cottonwood just did the same thing. They expanded their size as well. So all I'm saying is there's experts out there. Please ask us. The industry is evolving. It's here to stay because of Prop 105. It's not ever going anywhere. For recreational passes, it's a whole different thing. We want the jobs here in Phoenix. This is about jobs. That's why I ask you to lower the restrictions on cultivation centers so that there's more of them, and do what you need to do for political reasons, for perceptions on dispensaries. I'm not going to even address that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Downing. Mr. Jason Madar. Jason here. He was neutral on the item. I also have 2 cards of individuals not wishing to speak. Mr. Bill Scheel is in favor of staff recommendation, and Krista Severance, good to see you, is also in favor of staff recommendation. Available to speak if requested. It's up to you. You okay? Okay. Is anyone else here wishing to speak on item number 82? Please come forward and state your name and provide up to 2 minutes of testimony.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Christy Milkey. I live in the area of 32nd Street in Shea, and I support the recommendations, but I'm wondering if there's the possibility of just increasing the distance between the dispensaries and schools.
Okay. So what is currently the spacing requirement between dispensaries and schools?
Mayor, members of council, it's 1,320 feet, which is a quarter mile.
A quarter mile spacing requirement. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Wait, so your recommendation is that we do that?
Right.
All right. We'll see if any other council member wants to do that. Any other testimony?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming down. Is any other citizen here wishing to speak on item number 82? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. I will now turn to a member of the council and see if there is a motion on item number 82, noting that staff is requesting that this be an emergency clause item, which means we're going to need a 3/4 vote of the city council. Is Councilman DeCiccio on the phone? You got to leave on this item? Okay. So there's, let's see, 8 of us. Okay. So we have enough votes just in case. All right, is there a motion on item number 82? Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve as corrected per the Neighborhood Housing and Development Subcommittee and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second.
To
Let's see,
include the
Councilman Williams,
emergency
what's your
clause.
question? I apologize.
Need to add with the emergency clause?
Do we need to be specific, or is it included? Okay, you're requesting that the Vice Mayor add the emergency clause?
Mayor and Vice Mayor, yes, I would recommend go ahead and adding the emergency clause. It's kind of belt and suspenders, but I think it's important.
The motion includes the emergency clause.
Second.
Second's okay with that? Okay. Any additional comments by members of the council? Councilman Gates, please.
Thank you, Mayor. For Mr. Stevenson, so there was a request about expanding the spacing requirements from schools. Obviously, this has been a big issue in some areas. Now that we've actually, in the beginning, these ordinances it was passed, and we didn't really know how it was going to play out in reality. Can you speak about any, distance, expansion of distance that might be a possibility from schools in particular? Obviously doesn't have the same sort of definitional challenges that we talked about on community center.
Mayor, members of council, if you recall the slide that was up a couple minutes ago, under the proposed regulations as it is today, under this proposal, you're looking at 2.3% of the land area of the city that would be available for this type of use. And given the number of schools that are throughout our community, that would have a potentially, depending on what number that is, have a big impact on that number. And part of what we had to do in coming up with all of these spacing requirements is balance the different areas so that we had enough that we felt comfortable to defend the city in the potential of a lawsuit of you using the zoning authority to make it so difficult that we can't really regulate. And so that's why staff kept that at the quarter mile and added other items to that spacing requirement instead of just saying, let's not look at other spacing requirements and just expand the schools. And so that was a decision that was made to look at protecting a lot of other uses. And so at this time, I wouldn't be prepared to recommend an increase in that. Staff would prefer to stay at the quarter mile.
Mayor, so is it your position that if we were to do that, the whole ordinance could be struck down?
Well, Mayor, members of council, I think that it makes it something that might be harder for us to defend. And outside of that, I think we should probably have the city attorney in an e-session and talk about if that's what the council druthers were.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Other comments by members of this council? Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I am confident that we do not have the perfect answers today, and so I'd like to continue to talk about this. It will be important to see what the voters decide or if there is a ballot initiative, and we'll continue to get new information. So from my perspective, today is not a final decision. We'll continue to learn and grow, and we can evolve as we get more information. The city is not the decision-making body on what role marijuana should play. We do not regulate drugs. We do make important land use decisions, and I think we've learned a lot by looking at other communities that have dealt with this. So there are some communities that have a very large concentration, sometimes called the Green Mile. I understand there's a street in Denver that's called Broadway but has gotten a new name related to the concentration of businesses. And so it certainly is a strategy. I think we're making the right strategy in saying these businesses will be out throughout the community and not all in one place. So today is a land use decision to me, one that we will continue to evaluate, but one that I believe is the right decision for our city.
Thank you very much. Any other comments by members of this council? Roll call.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on an 8-0 vote. There'll be no further business before this city council. Oh, we have 4 more citizen comments? Okay, I apologize. We have 2 more citizen comment cards. Ms. Diane Barker, did you just provide testimony before this council? You have up to 3 minutes, followed by Joanne Scott Woods.
Yeah, hi, Mayor and Council, Diane Barker, District 7. I was over at a body that this City of Phoenix is a part of. It's called Valley Metro Rail. And getting an agenda to the posted meeting was impossible. It was a Friday. I went Thursday, they didn't have it. People didn't know where it was. And Friday, they still didn't have it. They were going to mail it to me. But you know something? The open meeting law indicates that they need to let a person know what's going to be on the agenda. When we got there were persons in wheelchairs attending, and there was nobody there to help them with the mic, their cards. It was very embarrassing. And so, you know, as this body's a member, I'm calling your attention to that. You never can have enough customer service. And you would have thought the people that were there, seeing the people that couldn't reach the mic or speak from the wheel, would have gotten off their rear end and gone over there. As it was, I know these people and I assisted them. But, you know, it was almost like we were in imposition because the chairman said to me, "Where are your cards?" And I said, "Well, I handed it in to the staff." Staff was on their telephone, and then they finally woke up and said, "Oh, here they are." Okay, people, we need to be concrete. You want to have transit, I want to have transit, and good. But we make decisions, and that you passed this today at the hearing with no one speaking, but I just want to give you an example of where we're going. If we don't watch where we're going, we can end up there. Albert Santana says that we're going to identify, these are light rail stops, on the study process for ridership, service disruption, location, operation, maintenance costs, and available funding. Then he's asking, okay, who's going to ride this? This is the 50th Street. Oh, we expect 900 to 1,000 riders, including some people they don't identify at that empowerment center. Okay, so they say, well, it looks like the retail area is only 180 degree rather than a full 360 around there. Why was it chosen? And he says, well, somebody over at Ability 360 helped start the conversation, and so others in the area are on board. Okay, so then this goes on. They want to have an exact number to recoup the cost of the station. Mr. Santana, I don't have that exact number tonight. He's not reported, get with you. Okay, he stated he didn't have an exact idea, but light rail is invaluable to people for disabilities. This is when the percentage of the employees and patrons that would use light rail. Okay, so now, while serving the disability community is great, who else is going to use that? He says, oh, you know, there are people that have been studied. This goes on and on. If we don't watch out where we're going, we can end up here. And the thing is, we don't want to end up that beautiful Sheraton Hotel. We lost a lot of money on it. We've got that, but we don't need white elephants.
Thank you very much. Ms. Joanne Scott Woods.
I'm reading from my Facebook. I spoke at one of the City of Phoenix budget hearings that was last night. That was at Pilgrim's Rest. I asked the city to include full funding for deployment of body cams rather than spreading it over a 3-year period. Because we've really been waiting since the first body cam study. I don't know why you guys are smiling. I thank them for the inclusion. Of an employee assistant and wellness program. But equally necessary is a data-driven early intervention system to identify those officers at risk for violent behavior. I said our current system relies on only discretionary reporting, co-workers, and supervisors. The Seattle PD considers 13 other thresholds, including degrees of use of force incidents, vehicle, pursuits, naming and police action claims or police action lawsuits against the city, unexcused failure to appear in mandatory training, K-9 apprehension by ratio, and officer-involved shooting, single incident threshold. And this was developed over 5 years. And it took $11 million to develop it, and it cost around $1 million to implement it every year. My third concern was lack of dash cams, but I don't expect them as much as I would wish for body cams. We haven't had them since 2011. My fourth of great concern was lack of funding for a civilian review board. By the timeline presented by the Community Police Trust Initiative to convene a panel, study best practices, and present it for approval, it would take under a year to do that, so I would like that to be included in the 2017-18 budget. The fifth and last item was the funding of justice banners for fallen citizens, similar to that of hero banners posted along streets for fallen police officers and firemen and women, honoring men and women whose family have filed successfully in lawsuits or when police have admitted wrongdoing. I said this action is doing what is right for the family and our community. It would be a vital step in reconciling officers and citizens since the Michael Johnson incident. And there's so much evidence that our police department needs reform by the 2010 through 2014.
Thank you very much, Ms. Woods. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it very much. All right, there will be no further business for the City Council. This meeting is adjourned.